They're awesome. Kids are awesome, by the way. You guys should all have kids. Kids are great.
Elon Musk's kids don't just inherit a famous last name. They grow up inside a world most people will never touch. From private tutors shaping future power to lifestyles built around influence, one detail about their upbringing quietly changes everything, and it's not what you expect. Exclusive family compound. Let us begin our journey at the physical heart of Musk's expanding family empire, a place that tells you everything you need to understand about how this man approaches the project of raising children. In 2024, Elon Musk acquired a secretive $35 million family compound in Austin, Texas, and calling it merely a real estate purchase would be like calling SpaceX merely a rocket company. This is nothing less than the construction of a private kingdom designed to house his growing legion of offspring. The estate sprawls across a quiet street in the exclusive suburb of West Lake Hills, comprising 3 adjoining multi-million-dollar mansions that together form an interconnected family habitat. The centerpiece is a 14,400 square foot Tuscan-style villa, the kind of Mediterranean-inspired architecture that whispers of old money and European sophistication. Adjacent to this main structure sits a 6-bedroom home, and additional properties fill out the compound, all connected in ways that allow the inhabitants to move freely between buildings while remaining within the protective bubble of the estate. The purpose of this unusual arrangement becomes clear when you understand the composition of Musk's family. Siobhan Zilis, the Neuralink executive who has given Musk 4 children through in vitro fertilization, resides in the compound full-time, serving as the anchor of this unconventional household. Her children, twins Strider and Azure, along with younger siblings Arcadia and Selden Lycurgus, grow up with daily access to their half-siblings from other mothers, creating a family dynamic that few can relate to, but that Musk apparently considers ideal for raising his legion. The security apparatus surrounding this compound deserves its own discussion. High fences encircle the property, guards patrol during Musk's visits, and the level of privacy protection rivals what you might expect for a head of state rather than a private citizen, even an extraordinarily wealthy one. Pet groomers arrive on call to tend to the family animals. Nannies provide the constant supervision that Musk's demanding schedule cannot. The entire operation runs with the efficiency of a well-managed corporation, which perhaps is fitting given who owns it. Neighbors in Westlake Hills describe the atmosphere as surprisingly subdued, despite the billionaire drama unfolding behind those walls. The vibe is low-key, they report, with little of the ostentatious display you might expect from America's wealthiest family. The children play in secure environments, learn in custom educational settings, and occasionally host their famous father for visits that, by Musk's own admission, occur less frequently than he would like. Musk has described his approach to fatherhood as building a close-knit legion of offspring, language that carries almost dynastic implications. He genuinely seems to view his children as the vanguard of a future humanity, the first generation of what he hopes will eventually become a multi-planetary species. The compound represents his attempt to give them roots even as he dreams of sending their descendants to the stars. But here's where the narrative becomes complicated, as narratives involving Elon Musk inevitably do. He initially denied building this compound in statements made during 2023 and 2024, insisting it wasn't some grand family home, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Later, he confirmed various aspects of the arrangement, while continuing to downplay its significance. This pattern of denial, followed by grudging acknowledgement, has characterized many revelations about his family life. The compound has become a flashpoint in Musk's various custody arrangements. Some mothers have embraced the setup, seeing it as providing stability and sibling connection for their children. Others, like the musician Grimes, have reportedly avoided the compound entirely, preferring different arrangements for the children she shares with Musk. The Austin estate represents Musk's vision of family unity, but that vision is not universally shared by all the mothers of his children. But a compound, no matter how lavish, is merely a place to live. What truly shapes these children's futures is how they're being educated, and in typical Musk fashion, that meant building an entirely new kind of school from the ground up. Innovative private education. Elon Musk has never concealed his contempt for conventional education. He has publicly characterized public schools as indoctrination factories and dismissed the traditional approach to teaching children as antiquated, ineffective, and fundamentally unsuited to preparing young minds for the challenges of the future. So naturally, being Elon Musk, he decided to build his own educational system from scratch. In 2014, Musk founded Ad Astra, a name that translates from Latin as "to the stars," a fitting designation for a school created by a man obsessed with making humanity a spacefaring civilization. The original Ad Astra operated in an unlikely location, the SpaceX campus in Hawthorne, California, where children learned in the shadow of rockets being assembled to carry payloads into orbit. The school served approximately 50 students at its peak enrollment, and these were not random children from the surrounding community. The student body consisted primarily of Musk's own offspring and the children of SpaceX employees, creating an elite educational environment with direct connections to one of the world's most innovative companies. The curriculum abandoned virtually everything associated with conventional schooling. There were no grades at Ad Astra, no traditional classroom structures, and no standardized testing. Instead, students engaged in hands-on projects that would seem more appropriate for graduate engineering programs than elementary education. They built robots. They participated in sophisticated ethical debates about the implications of artificial intelligence. They ran simulations of complex, real-world scenarios like negotiating international treaties or managing economic systems under stress. The teaching staff included SpaceX engineers, people who spent their professional lives solving problems that had never been solved before, who brought that mindset into the classroom. The approach drew heavily from Montessori principles, emphasizing self-directed learning and treating children as capable of far more sophisticated thinking than traditional education assumes. Musk believed, and continues to believe, that he was booting up brains in a fundamentally different way, preparing children to solve problems that don't yet exist in a world that will look radically different from today. The school operated with an almost religious devotion to STEM education and critical thinking, treating curiosity as sacred and conformity as the enemy of innovation. Around 2020, Ad Astra evolved into a new form called Astra Nova, a nonprofit online school serving students between the ages of 10 and 18. The program offers courses categorized as mysteries, involving puzzles and elaborate simulations, and synthesis, focusing on team-based collaborative problem-solving. Tuition runs approximately $30,000 per year, though scholarships are available, and the school now serves students from around the globe rather than just the SpaceX community. Several of Musk's children have passed through these educational programs. The triplets, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, excelled in mathematics and physics during their time at Ad Astra, demonstrating the kind of aptitude their father hoped to cultivate. Younger children receive custom homeschooling designed along similar principles, ensuring consistency in the Musk educational philosophy across all his offspring regardless of age. But the most dramatic chapter in this educational saga came in late 2024, when Musk announced a massive $100 million investment to establish a new physical Ad Astra school in Bastrop, Texas. This was presented as the crown jewel of his educational vision, a revolutionary STEM-focused elementary school that would eventually expand into a complete K-12 system, and perhaps even a university serving the growing population of SpaceX workers and their families. The rhetoric surrounding this announcement was characteristically ambitious. Musk described education that would feel like a video game, interactive and engaging in ways traditional schooling could never achieve. He spoke of transforming how children learn, of creating an educational model that could be replicated worldwide, of proving that his approach could work at scale rather than just for a privileged few. The reality, as of late 2025, has fallen dramatically short of these promises. The Bastrop Ad Astra enrolled only approximately 10 children by December 2025, supervised by just least 2 caregivers. Critics who visited or reported on the facility described something that resembled a high-end daycare more than a revolutionary educational institution. The facilities included sleep cots for nap time, graham crackers for snacks, and basic activities that bore little resemblance to the cutting-edge learning environment Musk had advertised. The school has faced significant backlash, with commentators calling it a failed experiment and questioning whether the $100 million investment amounted to little more than an expensive vanity project. In December 2025, the facility received an operational permit allowing it to function as a licensed child care program, but the grand vision of transforming education remains largely unrealized, at least for now. The classroom, however unconventional, represents only one dimension of these children's education. Perhaps even more formative is their unprecedented access to the technologies and companies that consume their father's waking hours. Exposure to cutting-edge technology and events. Imagine growing up with casual access to rocket launches, factory tours of facilities producing vehicles that will transform transportation, and demonstrations of technology designed to merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. For Elon Musk's children, this isn't imagination but daily reality, an upbringing immersed in the most advanced technology on Earth. The children frequently visit SpaceX launches, watching from privileged vantage points as their father's rockets thunder into the sky. They tour Tesla factories where autonomous vehicles roll off assembly lines. They attend Neuralink demonstrations where brain-computer interfaces promise to revolutionize human cognitive capability. This isn't occasional exposure but a consistent element of their upbringing, shaping how they understand the world and their place in it. XAAZ, known simply as X, has become perhaps the most visible example of this tech-immersed childhood. Born in 2020 to Musk and the musician Grimes, X has developed what his father describes as a love for rockets that goes beyond casual interest into genuine passion. The boy has accompanied Musk to SpaceX offices, attended launches, and absorbed the culture of space exploration from his earliest years. In 2025, X attended White House events, bringing a 5-year-old's perspective to meetings with the highest levels of government. Whether this exposure benefits or burdens a child so young is a question worth asking, but it undeniably provides experiences that virtually no other children on Earth can claim. However, this proximity to cutting-edge technology carries its own risks. Musk has acknowledged that X experienced what he described as PTSD following a 2023 Starship explosion. Being present when massive rockets fail spectacularly is not an experience most parents would choose for their young children. Yet it represents the reality of growing up with a father whose work involves spectacular successes and equally spectacular failures.
One of my sons is a bit autistic, like me, I suppose, and chip off the old block. And we were walking through an airport, and he saw a newspaper, and that today's date was printed on the newspaper, and he stopped for a second. He was like, "How did they know it was today's date?" And I was like, "No, they print out those newspapers every day." He says, "Every day? What a chore." And then he sort of somewhat dismissively said, "Oh, they probably just read the internet and print it out." Like, yeah, they read the internet and print it out, pretty much.
The older children, including the triplets from Musk's first marriage, have had their own experiences of this technological immersion. They've accompanied their father to meet world leaders, attending conferences and events where the future of technology and global affairs intersects. These are educational opportunities that no amount of money could typically purchase, direct access to the people and processes shaping humanity's trajectory. When Musk visits his children, the interactions often blend play with education. The rough housing he describes serves as physical connection, But the conversations surrounding these visits inevitably touch on the work that consumes most of his waking hours. These children grow up understanding artificial intelligence not as an abstract concept, but as something their father is actively building. They grasp space colonization not as science fiction, but as a family business goal. This exposure to cutting-edge innovation isn't confined to California launch sites or Texas factories. Thanks to their father's fleet of private aircraft, these children experience the world itself as their extended classroom. Global travel via private jets. For ordinary families, international travel represents a significant undertaking involving months of planning, considerable expense, and the accumulated frustrations of commercial aviation. For the children of Elon Musk, globetrotting is simply how life works, accomplished via a fleet of private aircraft that can whisk them from Texas to Tokyo, from California to conferences in Europe, with minimal notice and maximum comfort. Musk's private jet fleet includes a Gulfstream G 650ER valued at over $70 million, an aircraft representing the pinnacle of private aviation, capable of flying nearly anywhere on Earth without refueling. The children utilize this and other aircraft in the fleet for family trips, work-related events their father brings them to, and vacations that blend luxury with the educational opportunities only such mobility can provide. In 2025, Musk's jet landed in Bella Bella, British Columbia, for a family helicopter trip to a private island. The kind of excursion that sounds like fiction to most families, but represents routine adventure for the Musk offspring. These trips are conducted with the security and discretion appropriate to the world's wealthiest family, with advanced teams ensuring privacy and protection at every destination. The children spend time at properties across California and Texas, but their father's global business interests mean exposure to destinations far beyond American borders. They've met world leaders, attended international conferences, and experienced cultures that most children only read about in textbooks or see in documentaries. This jet-setting lifestyle serves educational purposes that Musk clearly values. Travel exposes his children to different perspectives, different approaches to problems, different ways of living. It reinforces the global scale of their father's ambitions and perhaps prepares them for futures that won't be limited by national boundaries, whether on Earth or beyond. Yet all this mobility and exposure means nothing without understanding the human relationships at the center of these children's lives, and those relationships are as complicated as anything Musk has ever attempted to engineer. Blended family dynamics and sibling interactions. The mathematics of Elon Musk's family create relationships of Byzantine complexity. 14 children across 4 mothers means half-siblings of varying ages, children who share a father but may have dramatically different daily experiences, and family gatherings that would require a detailed chart to navigate properly. In the Austin compound, the younger children, particularly those born to Shivonziles, interact daily, playing together in secured environments where their sibling bonds can develop naturally despite the unusual circumstances of their births. Strider and Azure, the twins born in 2021, have grown up alongside Arcadia and Selden Lycurgus, their full siblings, while also having access to half-siblings from their father's relationships with Grimes and others, attempting to maintain connections with children living in different households with different mothers. Activities during his visits include storytelling, the aforementioned roughhousing that seems central to his parenting style, and presumably conversations about rockets, artificial intelligence, and the future of humanity that dominate his professional life.
And you have 5 children.
Dude, they're awesome. Kids are awesome, by the way. You guys should all have kids. Kids are great.
How much do you see them?
I don't see them enough, actually. What I find is that I'm able to be with them and still be on email, because I don't need like constant interaction except when we're talking directly. So I find I can be with them and still be working at the same time.
The older children from Musk's first marriage to Justine Wilson maintain more distance from this compound life. They have access to the family resources if desired, but generally pursue more private existences, with lives shaped by their experiences growing up during their father's rise from successful entrepreneur to world's richest man. The triplets, now in their late teens, and the twins Griffin and Vivian, now in their early 20s, represent a different generation of Musk children with different relationships to their father's fame and fortune. The co-parenting relationship between Musk and Grimes has been described as positive despite their romantic relationship ending, suggesting at least some stability for X, Y, and Tao, the three children they share. Grimes has apparently found ways to navigate the complicated dynamics of sharing children with the world's most famous billionaire while maintaining her own identity and priorities as a parent. Other relationships have proven more contentious. Disputes with Ashley St. Clair, mother of Romulus, have highlighted tensions that emerge when Musk's pronatalist mission intersects with the practical realities of supporting numerous children across multiple households. Not every mother has found the compound arrangement agreeable, and not every custody situation has been resolved amicably. For the children themselves, this blended family structure creates both opportunities and challenges. They have more siblings than most children could dream of, potential playmates, and lifelong connections spanning different mothers and different circumstances. But they also navigate the complexities of a father whose attention is divided many ways, of half-siblings they may barely know, and of a family structure that defies conventional understanding. This discussion of family dynamics leads naturally to the parenting philosophy that shapes how these children experience their extraordinary privilege. Disciplined approach with no lavish allowances. Here is perhaps the greatest paradox of the Musk children's lives. They are heirs to the largest fortune in human history, yet their father has explicitly rejected the idea of raising them with unlimited access to that wealth. Despite resources that could fund generations of idle luxury, Musk enforces strict self-reliance and refuses to allow his children the excessive spending that their circumstances could easily permit. This philosophy traces directly to Musk's own upbringing. His mother, Mae Musk, raised her children with an emphasis on independence, hard work, and delayed gratification. She taught them to be independent, kind, honest, considerate, polite, while avoiding luxuries until they could afford them through their own efforts. Elon has adopted this framework, viewing it as essential to preventing his offspring from becoming what he colorfully terms spoiled brats. The practical manifestations of this philosophy remain somewhat opaque given the family's privacy, but reports suggest that lavish allowances are not part of the Musk parenting approach. The children may live in multi-million-dollar compounds and travel via private jets, but they are apparently not given unlimited discretionary spending. Merit and effort are emphasized over entitlement and inheritance. Some of the children have internalized these values in notable ways. Damien, one of the triplets, became a vegetarian at age 8 for environmental reasons, demonstrating the kind of independent thinking and principled decision-making his father's philosophy aims to cultivate. His excellence in classical music and mathematics suggests that personal growth and achievement, rather than consumption and acquisition, define success in the Musk household. The older children provide interesting case studies in how this philosophy plays out over time. Vivian, the estranged daughter who legally changed her name to distance herself from her father, claims to have no access to trust funds or inheritance. She has described herself as broke, despite being the daughter of the world's wealthiest man, living modestly in Los Angeles with roommates and pursuing a career in modeling on her own merits. Whether this reflects the philosophy in action or the consequences of their estrangement is unclear, but it suggests that being born a Musk does not automatically guarantee financial security.
Statistically speaking, one out of the 5 has a good chance of being unhappy at any given point.
I don't know how he handles the stress. I mean, if I was him, I'd have died of a heart attack. You would not wish that kind of pain on your worst enemy.
This disciplined approach raises fascinating questions about the nature of privilege and inheritance. Musk seems to believe that giving children everything they want is actually a form of harm. that struggle and self-reliance build character in ways that unlimited resources cannot. He wants his children to achieve, to build, to contribute, rather than simply to consume the fruits of their father's labors. This emphasis on earned rather than inherited success extends even to how these children are identified to the world, through names that make statements and privacy measures that shield them from the spotlight their father occupies. Unique names and privacy measures. The names of Elon Musk's children have become almost as famous as the children themselves, combinations of letters, numbers, and references that seem designed for science fiction novels rather than birth certificates. XAAC, Exadark Sidral, Technomechanicus. These are not conventional names by any measure, and they reflect something essential about how Musk views his role as a father and his children's place in the future he's trying to build. The name XAAZ, belonging to his son with Grimes, reportedly references aircraft designations, technological concepts, and personal inspirations that the parents found meaningful. California's naming laws required modification from the original XAA-12, but the essential strangeness remained. The child is called simply X in daily life, but the full name makes a statement about the family's rejection of convention. Exadark Sidral, known as Y, draws from computing terminology, dark matter physics, and Lord of the Rings, creating a name that sounds more like a character from a cyberpunk novel than a toddler. Grimes has used anime-inspired aesthetics to maintain privacy for Y, with rare photographs showing deliberately obscured features that prevent easy identification. The newer children continue this naming tradition. Arcadia references Mars Arcadia Planitia, a region being studied as a potential site for human habitation, directly connecting the child to her father's Mars colonization ambitions. Selden Lycurgus combines a reference to the Foundation science fiction series, where Harry Seldon predicts civilizational futures, with the ancient Spartan lawgiver, creating a name weighted with meaning about governance and foresight. Beyond the names themselves, extensive privacy measures shield the children from public scrutiny. Non-disclosure agreements reportedly govern staff and former partners, ensuring that details about the children's lives don't leak to tabloids or social media. Some births, including the twins with Shivanzilis, were kept secret for extended periods, surprising even other members of the family when eventually revealed. This privacy paradox, famous father but private children, represents a deliberate choice that Musk and the mothers of his children apparently share. The children live extraordinary lives but are protected from the constant scrutiny that typically accompanies such lives. They can develop identities separate from their father's fame, at least during their formative years. The unique names serve a dual purpose in this context. They mark the children as Musk's offspring, connecting them to his vision and values, while also being unusual enough that simple searches won't necessarily reveal much information about them. A child named John Musk would face very different privacy challenges than one named Exadark Sidral. This privacy infrastructure connects directly to the security apparatus that surrounds the family's daily life. High security and support staff. The wealth that provides private jets and compound living also enables a security apparatus that would seem excessive for anyone but the world's richest man and his family. The Austin compound features guards, nannies, groomers, and various support staff who maintain the protected environment in which Musk's younger children spend their days. When Musk visits, the security presence intensifies. Guards take up positions, protocols are activated, and the compound transforms from a well-staffed home into something closer to a secure facility. The children likely don't perceive this as unusual, having grown up surrounded by such measures, but it represents a fundamental difference from how most families experience daily life. The support staff enable the compound to function as a child-rearing operation at scale. Nannies provide the constant supervision that Musk's demanding schedule cannot, ensuring that children are cared for whether their father is present or on another continent, dealing with rocket launches or car production. Pet groomers arrive to tend to family animals. Household staff maintain the properties. An entire infrastructure of human labor supports the lives of these children. The children grow up in what might fairly be described as a protected bubble, shielded from many of the ordinary experiences, both positive and negative, that most children encounter. They don't wait in line at grocery stores, or ride public transportation, or interact with strangers in uncontrolled environments. Their social world is curated and secured, populated primarily by family members, staff, and carefully vetted others. This raises questions about preparation for adult life. Children raised in such protected environments may struggle when they eventually venture into a world that doesn't revolve around their needs and safety. Or they may develop the confidence and focus that comes from never having worried about basic security. The outcome likely varies by individual temperament and the guidance provided by parents and caregivers. The security apparatus also reflects the genuine threats that accompany being associated with the world's most controversial billionaire. Musk has made enemies through his business dealings, his political statements, and his social media provocations. His children, simply by being his children, inherit some measure of the attention and animosity directed at their father. The security isn't paranoia, but prudent response to real risks. All this protection and privilege naturally raises the question that shadows every billionaire dynasty. What will these children actually inherit when their father is gone, and on what terms? Potential future inheritances and merit-based succession. What happens to the fortune of the world's richest man when he's gone? For most dynasties, the answer would be straightforward. The children inherit, the wealth passes to the next generation, and the cycle continues. But Elon Musk has explicitly rejected this model, insisting that his children won't automatically inherit billions simply because of their DNA. Musk's philosophy emphasizes merit-based succession, meaning his children would need to demonstrate capability and earn any role in his companies rather than simply being handed control because they're Musk's. This represents a significant departure from how most wealthy families operate, where inheritance is assumed and succession is primarily about managing the transfer rather than questioning whether it should occur. Theoretical estimates have suggested potential inheritances in the range of $50 million or more for some children, numbers that would seem astronomical to ordinary families but represent a tiny fraction of Musk's total wealth. If these estimates prove accurate, the children would be wealthy by any normal standard but not in control of the empire their father built. They would be beneficiaries rather than successors. The older children provide interesting evidence of how this philosophy manifests in practice. Vivian, the estranged daughter, lives modestly in Los Angeles with roommates, pursuing a career in modeling and claiming no access to family wealth. She has described herself as broke and expressed no desire to be super rich, suggesting either acceptance of or adjustment to the reality that being Musk's daughter doesn't automatically mean being wealthy. Whether the younger children will follow similar paths remains to be seen. They're being raised in the compound, educated in Musk's experimental schools, and exposed to his companies and philosophy in ways that might prepare them for roles in his enterprises if they prove capable. The emphasis on STEM education, critical thinking, and self-reliance could be viewed as deliberate preparation for earning, rather than inheriting their places. This approach raises fascinating questions about legacy and purpose. Musk seems to view his children primarily as contributors to humanity's future, rather than recipients of his accumulated wealth. He wants them to achieve, to build, to solve problems, not simply to manage portfolios and attend charity galas. The fortune is almost incidental to the mission. This discussion of inheritance and succession leads to the philosophical framework that underlies everything about Musk's approach to family, his pronatalist mission to save humanity through reproduction. Pronatalist, influence, and family-focused vision. Everything we've discussed, the compound, the education, the technology exposure, the travel, the discipline, the names, the security, the inheritance philosophy, connects to a central idea that drives Elon Musk's approach to family. He genuinely believes he's helping save humanity from extinction by having children. Musk is perhaps the world's most prominent advocate for pronatalism, the movement encouraging higher birth rates to combat what he sees as an existential threat of population decline. He has declared that if people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble, and he backs this rhetoric with personal commitment, fathering 14 children across 4 mothers through various combinations of natural conception, IVF, and surrogacy. This isn't merely personal preference dressed up as philosophy. Musk views global fertility rates, which have fallen below replacement level in many developed countries, as a more serious threat than climate change, more dangerous than international conflict, more urgent than economic instability. He believes that without dramatic intervention, human civilization will simply fade away as populations shrink and age. The children are explicitly part of this mission. They're not just Musk's offspring, but vanguards of a future humanity, raised in environments promoting large families, optimism about technology, and innovation as a way of life. The compound, the schools, the exposure to SpaceX and Tesla, all of it serves the larger goal of preparing the next generation to carry forward the human project. Musk has offered his sperm to friends and associates for reproduction, viewing it as a way to seed humanity with intelligent offspring. This language has drawn criticism for its eugenics-adjacent implications, the suggestion that some genetic lines are more worth propagating than others. But Musk seems unbothered by such criticism, continuing to advocate publicly for smart people to have more children. The connection to Mars colonization is explicit. Musk views his children as part of the population that will eventually settle other planets, ensuring humanity's survival beyond Earth. Names like Arcadia, referencing Martian geography, and Selden, referencing science fiction predictions of civilizational futures, reinforce this connection. These aren't just children. They're statements about the future Musk believes he's building. Musk has described having children as a statement of optimism, an act of faith that the future will be worth living in. Given his fears about population collapse and civilizational decline, his decision to father so many children represents personal commitment to the future he's trying to create. He's betting on humanity by investing in the next generation of humans, starting with his own offspring. Well, that's it for this video, but don't go anywhere because we've got plenty more heat for you. Just tap any of the cards on your screen right now and keep it locked.